Hello there, welcome back to Cinema Flicks Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the absolute least. Well, the least I can do today is haul, Bluray update, etc, etc. Just clear the decks and get this stuff away, because as you can see from the picture, I've left it too long and I've got stuff piling everywhere, so let's just batter in. No havering allowed. No particular order. From Network, Raise the Titanic. A pretty bland film, but with a spectacular last act in which they bloody raised the Titanic. It was before the wreck was discovered, and John Barry's theme is so good, his music is so good, that his name's on the cover. Believe it or not, this is from the same series of novels that Sahara with Matthew McConaughey was based on, so this is a prequel to Sahara. Rather different film. Escape from Sobibor is a rather deep escape drama about the Holocaust. Great to see Alan Arkin in a much different role to what you expect from his more comedic stylings, even though this was about the time he was making a massive name for himself in comedy once more, after a bit of a dry spell. But yeah, comedians know timing, so when they turn themselves to drama, often, not always, but often they can do so much with it. Can't believe I didn't have this set already. Barbara Steele, Queen of Horror, Nightmare Castle, and it comes with 2 bonus films, Castle of Blood and Terror, Creatures from the Grave. Castle of Blood should be the top feature, because they're all in HD, so it's not as if they're just giving you 2 SD films. That's a better film than Nightmare Castle is, but hey, it's Barbara Steele. They're all bloody good. She's the queen of like early Bava Gothics and things like that. So yeah, Barbara Steele's always going to have a place. Again, if you want more depth on anything, just pop a comment below and we'll go into it. But I've not got time. So much bloody stuff here. Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Part 1. This was essentially marketed as the kiddie Star Trek, but it's so much more than that. It's got themes of pure Star Trek-ism, and it does go quite dark in places and quite profound, and it's all about the idea of discovering the wider universe, and very much a Trek idea. It's but the only modern Trek that Gene Roddenberry would probably approve of. Watched this last night, Arabato. An offbeat vampire story, or is it a bit like one we'll come to in a minute? It uses heroin as a metaphor for vampirism, and then there's actual vampirism. There's all sorts of nut stuff in here. It's Pedro Almodovar's favourite horror film, according to the bonus features. Mike White from the projection booth does a great commentary on it, which I managed to listen to as well. It's quite extreme. It's one of those kind of genre films without genre, because it doesn't, just turn into fangs galore and then just turn into, Dusk Till Dawn or something. It really stays true to itself. Highly recommended. Frankenstein, the True Story, also came yesterday, and I know this film off by heart. It's about as true as your average fairy tale, unfortunately, but I mean, it was a bloody novel, for Christ's sake. What do I think the True Story is? David McCallum's the best thing in this by a country mile. Yeah, it's a great version of the Frankenstein mythos. It's just why they called it the True Story, I have no idea. Another one I watched last evening was Bo Widerberg, The Man in the Roof, from Radiance Films. Wow, if you've ever seen the episode of The Shield Season 1, where Michael Chiklis and co are pinned down in their own police station by gunmen and snipers just picking cops off one by one, that's exactly what this is. Swedish film from 1976, but it's so tense. My stomach was churning watching it. It's one of those kind of films. It's got that kind of scuzzy early 70s feel, even though it's 76, but it's got that French Connection, 7-Ups kind of vibe. You're half expecting Roy Scheider to turn up at one point, but he was too busy fighting a shark at this stage. This is a wonderful film, and the kind of stuff that, thank goodness, Radiance exists to bring us. Wonderful stuff. Spider, thank God somebody finally released Spider, and it happens to be Sony themselves. Comes with a Oh, don't fall down on me, Frankenstein. Don't, please, please. Bloody monster. It happens to be Sony themselves. David Cronenberg's last Cronenberg film until Crimes of the Future last year, or the year before. Because they went into that weird stage, didn't they, with the Eastern Promises and the Cockney gangster film from him. And then the Robert Pattinson stuff and the Freud Young film and things. But this is recognisable Cronenberg. If you take his name off it, you'd still know it. It's a real great psychological thriller. It's up there with the Videodromes and the like in terms of asking questions of the audience. Ray Fiennes' performance is legendary. From Eureka, another one of their forefers of brilliant horrors. So we've got people like Lionel Atwill, Rhonda Haunton, Bela Lugosi, of course, is in here. These are fun movies. I've already seen Murders in the Zoo and Night Monster, so last night I stuck on House of Horrors, and I hope to finish it tonight. What I love about these films is all four of them, and it's 260 minutes. So they're nice and quick. They don't hold around too long. It's not like I had to review Terrifier 2 for Sea of Tranquility. That was 2.5 hours long just for Terrifier 2. Fuck me. Film Noir Classics Volume 2. This was like, really, you're doing a Volume 2? Because it's been so long since Volume 1 came out from Arrow Video. What's interesting about this is that unlike, say, what do you call them? Indicators, film noirs. What this does is it gives you some stars in it. So you get like Richard Conte, Claudette Colbert, one of whom in a minute, Tony Curtis, and Charles Lawton. Now I've been working my way through the set, and I hate to say this, but there's a reason why these are like footnotes in most of their filmographies, because they ain't the best films. They're decent film noirs, but every one of these I could kind of say, that's a bit like, and then insert, Robert Mitchum film here. So really it's a bit derivative. They're not classics, but it's great performers doing solid, if not spectacular scripts. So, yeah. Claudette Colbert, so we come back to her very quickly. Claudette Colbert and Gary Cooper. Here's the indicator bundle. In Bluebeard's Eighth Wife, brilliant Ernst Lubitsch proto farce that would turn into his kind of screwball comedy and the Lubitsch touch and whatnot. Really highly recommended for Claudette Colbert in particular. And also this month from Ernst Lubitsch, we have, yes, there we go, Broken Lullaby, which was 1932. So this is pretty early for Lubitsch in terms of his Hollywood years, but we've got Lionel Barrymore from You Can't Take It With You. This is a pretty weepy melodrama kind of thing, but it's solid, if unspectacular again. It's kind of a running theme. I mentioned him there, so I might as well do him here. So from an actor who's in a Capra classic to a Capra classic, the best film in the lot by far, State of the Union, starring Spencer Tracy and Katie Hepburn. This is fantastic stuff. As always with these two on screen together, it's about their relationship and their camaraderie more than the actual story themselves. It's not as good as Adam's Rib, but it's not far off it in terms of the Tracy Hepburn collaborations. And Kiss Before the Mirror, another melodrama that was very much, that was good. I liked that, but it wasn't hitting quite the spot that I was hoping it would. Although it does have some interesting cast members, because Frank Morgan's one of the main cast, who would go on to be the Wizard of Oz 6 years later. And Gloria Stewart's in here, who was already a star. She'd been in Dracula, but most people would know as the old lady in Titanic. It was so long ago, that old bag. I shouldn't say it. I meant the character, not Gloria Stewart herself. She wasn't an old bag. Ooh, a bit bleak, this one. Hiroshima from Arrow Video very much humanises the people on the ground. So when we talk about, should nukes be used? Should we, was it justified to end the war quicker, or should America have invaded Japan by land? This kind of humanises the people that we kind of just say, well, hundreds of thousands of people died at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then we don't really lend any context to that. This does. It's very much, here are the people that you're talking about just as statistics. So wonderful stuff. Not for everyone, and certainly neither is this, on a similar theme, Getting Away with Murders. 3 hours long. The Guardian had it as their best documentary of 2021. This is really bleak. There were over 1 million people in the Nazi network who murdered and conspired to murder not just the Jewish people, but anybody in the LGBT community, travellers, a lot of the time just intellectuals, any dissidents, over 1 million people. And this film poses, why is the big question here. It says, why were there so few prosecutions? Why were we happy to just say, well, if we got the commandant of that ground, we don't actually need all the individual people who literally killed them? But it also doesn't do the cheap thing of just saying we should have hung more of them. So it really asks you to be essentially, if not judge, jury and executioner, it asks you to at least think on it, about the difference between justice and revenge. And it's a fascinating documentary from that point of view. And yeah, really, yeah. Again, that's not going to be for everyone because it's very dark, but it's richly rewarding should you be interested. Already done a video on the Whipping the Body, the new edition from 88, which is by far the best edition to get now. And similarly, I also did a video on Dark Places with Christopher Lee. So underrated. If you didn't watch that video on the channel, why not? And second of all, just bloody get this on my recommendation, because this is one of the best British horror thrillers of the 70s that you probably ain't seen. Wes Craven's Red Eye was his attempt to do something a bit Hitchcockian, and I don't know, people have always said that Brian De Palma comes off as a Hitchcock wannabe. Wes Craven comes off as a Brian De Palma wannabe with this, unfortunately. It's got great performances from Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdam, but Wes just doesn't have, at this point in his career anyway, this was not a million miles away from when he passed, doesn't have the storytelling chops. I mean, he'd done Scream 4 for goodness sake. I don't think he was at the peak of his abilities at this point. But it is quite tense in places, and it's definitely worth a watch. It looks stunning in 4K, but it's just not the best story, unfortunately. This, however, is recommended by my good friend John Waters. No, film blogger Sam, my actual real good friend, and I reviewed on his channel Lynch Oz recently, well, a couple of months ago now, and John Waters talks about this film in it, The Bad Seeds, with Patty McCormack, and it is the best killer child movie I've ever seen in my life, ever. It's an actual big studio film from Warner Brothers, directed by a proper big director, Mervyn LeRoy, and it was up for Oscars and things. You just think, wow, if this kind of thing was made today, a killer child film, it would just be a B movie at best, and it would be, they'd be camping it up. This wouldn't be up for Oscars. Yeah, it's got a real camp appeal now, but it is still dark, and it is still quite scary to think this innocent little child just happens to be the pure personification of evil. But Patty McCormack is wonderful as the little kid, and she'd already played it on stage for ages, so she knew the part inside out despite being just a little kid at the time. Already reviewed Jackie Chan's Gorgeous, so we don't need to go into detail on that, but it is, regardless, a fantastic release of an underrated Jackie Chan film from the 90s. Eureka have completed their release of In the Line of Duty, that series. They're not really related at all, but regardless, that series. Number 3 is good. Number 3 is good. Number 4 is great. Donnie Yen's in here as well. Both have Cynthia Han. I'm reliably informed it's not pronounced Can, even though that's how it's spelled, Cynthia Han. Number 4 is by far the best of the two. Not just because you add Donnie Yen in, but the stunts are insane. It really looks as if they're going to kill themselves at one point. I mean, it's an immigration dock worker is targeted by a criminal syndicate, and these two are kind of a buddy cop team who have to team up to take down the syndicate, basically. But that's all just a backdrop for something that they've not got the quality of a Jackie Chan in personality and a whole stunt team, but they just put themselves on the line so much that it's quite remarkable. Ooh, yeah. Let's do this as a triple, shall we? From our friends at Second Run, we'll do this one first. We have A Case for a Rookie Hangman, which is a kind of Czech Alice in Wonderland from behind the Iron Curtain. Came out in the 60s. Black comedy, goes into some real bizarre places. And it's essentially Lewis Carroll that takes on a guy in a country road who's trapped in a nightmare world that just becomes more horrible and horrible the deeper he goes into it. And it's all an allegory for what the Czechoslovakian people themselves have gone through under communist rule. So wouldn't you know it, it was banned. Two from the same filmmaker here, one from 63 and one from 67. So from 63 we have Ikari XB1. This is a sensational film. That this came out in 63 is remarkable. It's a serious sci-fi film, but at this point you're probably thinking 63, so it's like Forbidden Planet or something. No, this is like proto 2001. It examines what going deep into space and what coming close to a dark star and a black hole would do to the human psyche. Obviously we know now that to be remotely close to a black hole you'd be already sucked in and gone, but it's really an excuse to examine the human condition through extreme conditions, and what it does with it is fascinating, and I refuse to believe that people connected with 2001 didn't see this, and indeed Gene Roddenberry, because it's fantastic. Now the same director 14 years later made a film with, I think, the greatest title and premise in film history. Tomorrow I'll wake up and scald myself with tea. This is so highly recommended it's not real. I'm just going to tell you the basic plot of this, and you'll know from the title whether or not it's for you. A bunch of neo-Nazis in the future have an H-bomb, and they decide to time travel back, because time travel exists at that point, and give it to Hitler. Because just having the Fourth Reich take over in the future isn't enough. They want to go back and make sure the Third Reich won in the first place. Boy, this is remarkable stuff. Again, you're going to know if that's from you from the title and from the premise, but believe me, that's imaginative as hell. This is from, of course it's from 88, it's an Italian collection, what am I talking about? And it's starring George Ardison from Clap Your Dead and Barbara Steele again. I knew she was in one of these bloody films. But from Antonio Margheriti, the exploitation director, we have The Long Hair of Death. This is pure Gothic cinema. Some people have this in giallo, and I don't understand that at all. It's got all the tropes of Gothic cinema. It's black and white. It's a cursed family going through generations, and secrets revealed along the way. It's pure Gothic. And what a bloody cover that is. Yeah. Here's my girl, Michelle Wow, on a DVD, remember these? Of Butterfly and Sword with Donnie Yen again. Drummed in there. But this isn't great. It's very much another in the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon realm, and they've cast somebody who's in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So it actually came out before Crouching Tiger, but you can very much see that Crouching Tiger was Ang Lee taking a genre that was already popular and kind of taking it international. This film was one of the ones that kind of led to that, and probably Michelle's presence in that inspired that too. But hey, talking of the goddess that is Michelle Yeoh, what a woman, what a woman. She is also in, well, she's not in that at all, she's not in Fist of Legend, but what she is in is Yoink. She's in Tai Chi Master. So this is a twofer from Eastern Light. Region 3. This Fist of Legend is as the title even kind of tells you, Bruce Lee wannabe. But Tai Chi Master with Michelle and Jet Li is fantastic. Two students are thrown out of a Shaolin academy and kind of go their separate ways, and they're inseparable at the start, and they go their separate ways, and then their journeys take them on a collision course where they're going to have to come to blows eventually. And boy, peak Jet Li and peak Michelle Yeoh going at it. Not that wee, a dirty bastard. A double bill from Douglas Sirk from Criterion, the master of the melodrama. All That Heaven Allows is one of the great films of all time, from 1955. Just an absolute masterpiece with Jane Wyman and Rock Hudson. You know, with the idea of an aging woman. God, she was only in her late 40s or something, and you know that she should now be almost put out to pasture. She's the mother. She doesn't deserve a sex life anymore. She's a mother. That's just stone cold classic. It's probably his best film. And Magnificent Obsession as well, with again Rock Hudson. This is the film that kind of made his name, again with Jane Wyman. So yeah, it's a great double bill. All That Heaven Allows is by far the best of the two, but they're both wonderful stuff. Wonderful. Already done a video on Martin, so don't need to go into detail on that. Just suffice to say, this is the definitive release of the George A. Romero classic. It's not for everyone because, again, it's a revisionist vampire story. It's not a straight vampire story. His Dark Materials Series 2 is an adaptation, of course, of the Philip Pullman series of novels, and this is the middle installment. Series 3 finished a few months ago, and yeah, it keeps the story going wonderfully. Ruth Wilson is phenomenal in it, Andrew Scott's mercurial in it, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, usually when he's on screen, steals the show. Arrow's edition on 4K of The Last Emperor, Bernardo Bertolucci's Oscar winner. It's about as good as I remember, which is good, but not great. It's one of those films that's more an achievement than anything that hits you in the feels. It doesn't make me emotional. It's an epic to be sure, but it's not anything that makes me change my way of thinking about anything in particular. It's just a really well crafted, well made, massive biopic. Just doesn't have anything really fantastically insightful in it. That's the problem, which isn't, I don't think it's Bertolucci's strong suit anyway. I don't think he's that kind of director as a stylist, or was. I already have a really stacked edition of this from Sage Stallone's company in the US, but I had to get it anyway. The Big Gun Down, Lee Van Cleef and Thomas Millian classic. Eureka have just released it's not really a sequel, it's more of a spin-off for Thomas Millian's character, Run Man Run. So if you've got that and maybe don't have this, I'm sure anybody watching this probably is aware of it. This is by far the most famous of the two. It's a really great western. It's just, I've already got it. Why did I get it again? Jean-Pierre Genet's City of Lost Children on 4K looks breathtaking. Talking about visualists, he is a world builder, Jean-Pierre Genet, especially in this period with Delicatessen and this. he was making these bizarre, these strange, esoteric films that were these massive fantasies that they were kind of looking forward to what Guillermo del Toro would do. And half the cast of this would follow Genet into Alien Resurrection as well. But this is a wonderful film, and it looks breathtaking on 4K. I fell in love with it all over again. Just blind buy on this. If you like the strange films of Del Toro and you like Genet, then yeah, get him. Kidnap stars Michael Caine's accent and wig. That's about all you can say for this. It's a really poor version of Kidnapped. I bought it in the network sale and I paid £4 something. It was worth that, but if I'd paid any more, yeah. But it does have a great supporting cast. Listen to this for character actors: Trevor Howard, Jack Hawkins, Donald Pleasance, Gordon Jackson. These are the professionals. Freddie Jones from Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed and The Elephant Man, and more and more and more and more. Michael Caine's the lead and he's the worst thing in it. And I love Michael Caine, but it's not the role for him. They casted the star and not the right actor. David McCallum did a good version of Kidnapped though, the Robert Louis Stevenson classic. Edward G. Robinson's Confessions of a Nazi Spy, bit of a companion piece to another Edward G. Robinson film, The Stranger, but in which he's a Nazi, one of those guys, Nazi hunters, that goes around hunting Nazis hiding in America. Difference here is this was made pre-war for America, and they don't have the hindsight that film does, so they kind of act as if at points, maybe there's a peace to be made, between your people and ours, and from what we know from one of the previous documentaries, the full extent of the Holocaust, no, they had to be brought down. There wasn't negotiating with that kind of savagery and evil. But that film, in its naivety, and you can't blame them, they didn't know. Nobody knew the full extent of the Holocaust except for the people doing it, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a great performance from Edward G. Robinson, as always. Recommended, but expect to go in going, well, that's not the way the war was going to, it doesn't know the true nature of Nazis by that point. Talking about true nature, the true nature of Star Trek was rediscovered in Strange New Worlds, and people have complained for the longest time now that the new Star Trek on TV is just not Star Trek. It's just generic story arc genre television, which happens to be Star Trek, and it's Alex Kurtzman just making his own crap and sticking the Star Trek name on it, and I fully agree with that when it comes to early Discovery, first 2 seasons of Picard. But then something happened. The people making these shows actually listened, took away a lot of the power from Alex Kurtzman and put people in charge that actually know Star Trek and like it. Gosh, imagine that. So we get Anson Mount as Chris Pike, we get Ethan Peck, Gregory Peck's grandson, as Spock, and Rebecca Romaine as Number One. And this is the story of the Enterprise before Kirk, essentially. So this is, just before the 5-year mission stuff. Pike knows that he's going to his Waterloo, thanks to season 2 of Discovery. But essentially this lets us just go back into classic era Trek. It's as close as we will come now to watching 60s Star Trek with the values and moral lessons and things. Apart from, oddly enough, the animated show. Empire of Light with Olivia Colman, Toby Jones and Colin Firth. Good film, not great. Wait for this one to be on TV. Don't pay money for it like I did. I love films, and the reason that I coughed up for it is because I love films that are about the cinema and its effects on people's lives. And this is about 2 people in the early 80s, Thatcher government. Their lives are in ruin because of the economy that they brought upon us. Very good to the rich, not so good for the rest of us. But yeah, this is a wonderful exploration of these 2 people and their friendship through cinema in Brighton, and what it does, what cinema connects them with, and how it connects them to each other, and how cinema kind of gets you through those times, and the connections you make through cinema. Yeah, that kind of stuff floats my boat. Clark Gable, Jean Harlow, Myrna Loy, Wife versus Secretary. This is another good proto screwball, but not quite a screwball, so it's just more of a standard comedy, but it's still top notch due to that cast. I mean, those three alone. But then when you look down the cast list a bit more, yeah, there's Jimmy Stewart before he was Jimmy Stewart, and he was still just James Stewart trying to get his start. So before he was a star, yeah. Really fun movie. Not top tier from a Jimmy Stewart point of view, but for all those three, yeah, remarkable stuff. 2 films from Benson and Moorhead, the visionaries behind The Endless. I love their style of filmmaking. Even that most recent one they did, where everything was set in one room because of lockdown. This is more of a kind of buddy cop take on their kind of fantasy and futuristic, sometimes vaguely horror. And this one is a barroom brawl, and it turns into a kind of noirish mystery spring. So yeah, and what's wonderful about their films is they're all connected. So sometimes they'll just make references to another film, and sometimes characters will actually pop up from other films playing the same roles. So they're all in the same universe, but you don't need to have seen any of them. Take note, Marvel. Do you want to go see Ant-Man? Oh sure, that sounds fun. Okay, have you seen 19 TV shows, 14 movies and 4 animation shorts before you go? Because that's what you need to have done. Miami Blues from Radiance Films. Good 90s thriller, early 90s, in fact very early, it's from 1990, with Alec Baldwin and a very young Jennifer Jason Leigh, who is fantastic. And the reason to watch this, Alec Baldwin is full of charisma and star power. It's just a bit difficult watching Alec Baldwin at the moment. There's a kind of retrospective documentary on here about his career, and you think, ooh, that documentary might have a different ending in a couple of years' time. You know, the whole shooting thing. I'm not on the jury, I'm not judging. Let's rattle off a couple more that I've already done that I don't need to go into depth on. The Bob Clark Collection, done a video on that. Highly recommended. There's a world-class documentary about his life story on here, but problematic because you're probably going to be double dipping, and in my case triple dipping in a couple of these for a documentary. But for what it is, still great. This one, highly recommended. Finally, 4K of Naked Lunch. Done a video on it, don't need to go into it any further. Cronenberg masterpiece, which loosely adapts William S. Burroughs' masterpiece and comes up with something completely unique. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. So watch that video. Watch all my videos if you haven't seen them. Some of them are good. I can't think of one offhand, but some of them are good. People have told me so. Bartleby, starring John McEnroe as Bartleby, and Paul Scofield, he of legendary stage career, but also Man for All Seasons fame, and The Train with Burt Lancaster. This is wonderful. I got this in the recent Indicator sale, and it wasn't even on my radar. And do you know what it is? It's the Office Space of its time. It's adapted from a Herman Melville story from the 1850s or something like that, and then brings it up to date to the 1970s, moves the location from New York to London, and still works perfectly. And what's even more bizarre is that it still works perfectly in 2023 as well, because essentially it's a story about how we're all just numbers when it comes to working for a company. In an office, you're just a bum on a seat, as one of my old managers once told me. You're just bums on seats, remember, you're just bums on seats. Bartleby is sick of just being a bum on a seat, so every time he's told by his manager to start doing something, I'm not minded to do that at the moment. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful satire of how horrendous it is to live in this 9-to-5 existence that we're stuck in. Some of you, hopefully, picked up the John Ford Indicator box set, either when it came out or maybe in the recent Indicator sale, and maybe liked Gideon's Day, the film in that. That was based on one of the Gideon novels, and here's the TV show, Gideon's Way, which is 26 episodes of John Gregson playing Gideon, and it is full of my kind of stuff where you get to go, oh, there's so-and-so from Doctor Who, there's so-and-so from the Avengers, there's so-and-so from Blake 7, there's Gordon Jackson, and, you know, everybody you've ever seen in a John Mills movie will pop up in an episode, that kind of thing. ITC produced this as a kind of response to Z-Cars for the BBC. Cop shows at the time were like Dixon of Dock Green, very much evening out, you know, that kind of Bobby on the beat, can do no wrong, nothing's too much of a problem, clip round the ear will sort them out kind of thing. This is where it starts to get real, and it's about real crime, and hard hitting for its day, but obviously it's dated now, but yeah, look at that though, look at the size of the book you get just on Gideon's Day. So all 26 episodes, beautifully remastered with a plethora of extras, all sorts of documentaries and interview with Giles Watling, and yeah, stunning stuff. Highly recommended if you like that. And this was from Network as well, the new documentary, A Life Uncharted, Jerry Anderson. If you're a fan of Anderson works, obviously Thunderbirds, Stingray, Captain Scarlet, all those kind of shows. It doesn't matter if you're only a slight fan, you're going to find this of interest, because it goes into the not seedy aspects, because he wasn't that kind of guy, but it's not scared to say he wasn't a perfect person. And it is very much his story, but also the story of how he inspired so many people, how many people grew up with his works. I mean, I grew up with Jerry Anderson's 60s stuff in the 90s because it was shown again on BBC Two, and it didn't seem dated at all. We all wanted Tracy Island and Thunderbird 2 or Thunderbird 1, you know, and we wanted those toys for Christmas. It became the biggest selling Christmas toy in the UK 25 years after the bloody show was on air. Remarkable. But that just shows how Jerry Anderson's stuff abides, really abides. It will never fade for me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new edition from Second Sight. I would have done a solo video on this, but by the time I came back from my recent Holly Bobs, there were a million videos on it, so wow. Wowee, what a great restoration, and what a package from Second Sight. Look at that for a book. Look at that for a making of book. So you get a full book, loads of art cards, even more if you ordered direct, so that's why there's so many art cards there, and they left a nice little space for them as well, and then all your discs are in here. Yeah, this is stunning. This is breathtakingly good. What a restoration. And I heard some people say on the announcement, oh, it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's low budget from the 70s, how good can that look? Well, it was stylistically designed to look a certain way by Toby Hooper, to look grainy, to look very yellowy, it was very colour corrected and very stylised intentionally, so it's the best it can look in that style. So yeah, improvements can be made and have been made, because this is the best looking Texas Chainsaw Massacre by far I've ever seen. And finally today, folks, I already owned the Persuaders, the 70s Roger Moore, Tony Curtis, floating around Europe having a great holiday while occasionally making a TV show together about two playboys floating around Europe and solving crime. Already have that. Again though, look at that, that is just the discs, and then again a massive book from Andrew Pixley just about the professionals. Network announced a bundle of another book that I should have brought in actually, which is a big book, more pictures than writing like Andrew Pixley's stuff, full of memorabilia and things connected to the show, and then 2 new bonus discs. The Persuaders at 50 documentary about the series, along with the 40th anniversary event, a Q&A with Roger Moore, an in-depth interview with Tony Curtis from 2006, they couldn't do it in 2016. He was already dead, and it'd be a rather boring interview. And then featuring the Persuaders, which is really cool. This is the 8 feature films that, well, 6 that definitely came out. 2 of them were kind of never really finished, and Network had finished them. What they did was they took episodes and stuck them together, but they didn't just cut the credits out. They actually extended scenes, used deleted scenes to tie things together, and a couple of things were filmed with this in mind to put them into mostly mainland Europe cinema screens. And that's what you get here. You get all 8 of them across a whole bunch of discs. So essentially you get 8 feature films based on that, and there's all 8 listed there. So none of them were just called, well, I think the first one was just called The Persuaders, but you get them across all these discs in HD. And again, they finished the 2 that weren't finalised, so it's great to have those finally. So yeah, The Persuaders was always a series of mini movies made for television. Now they can be watched as movies. Oh, Christ on a bike, I'm knackered. Nobody should talk this much. Oh, I feel like I've filibustered in the US Senate. Anyway, folks, hope there's something of worth for you there. Stick a comment down if you want any more information. Suggestions, complaints, stick them down there as well. Just a hello wouldn't go amiss occasionally. How are you doing? You look well? You don't look well, see a doctor? That kind of thing's always appreciated. Until then though, stay very safe out there, because my back's to the outside world. Stay very safe out there. And as usual, love and indeed, you know the usual, mercy. That's the one.